Being truant is when you're absent for any part or all of a school day without a legitimate excuse, without a parent calling you in, without a doctor's note, without it being a school-related incident, like a field trip or some type of college visit or something like that. If there's no excuse for the absence, then that would be in itself considered truant. You can be considered truant if you're called out by a parent if you've exceeded the 10 days that the state and the school district allow within a school day, or I'm sorry, within a school year. What I mean by that is parents are allowed to excuse their student up to 10 days within a school year for with no explanation. So family trips, you know, deer hunting, things like that. But once it exceeds that 10 days, if it's not accompanied by a doctor's excuse, it's in excess of what the state and the school district allow. So if it's not accompanied with a doctor's excuse, then that could be considered truant as well. This year, it looks as though we have at least 25 students that have been cited for truancy. We've got a few weeks left of the school year, so it probably will be closer to probably about 30 students or so. And at least 5 of those students have been cited multiple times, meaning that once they've been to court, they don't fix the truancy problem, they continue to skip school, and then they get cited again. So at least 5 of those students are return court visitors. We don't generally look to suspend students for truancy because that would be defeating the purpose of trying to get them here at school. I know the administration does a lot with like in-school suspension and detentions and things like that. We really try to avoid suspending for truancy. A truancy ticket can range anywhere from $177 to $681. And it can also include a 2-year suspension of your driver's license. If you end up in court and get fined for truancy and you fail to pay, if you're 17 or above, the court can put out a warrant for your arrest and you can sit some time in jail for failure to pay. As far as receiving the truancy letter, the way I run my truancy is you have to accumulate 5 full or partial days within a school or within a semester in order to be considered habitually truant. So I'll run a weekly report. Once a student receives 5 partial or full days of absence, I'll send out a truancy warning letter. And then I continue to check their attendance, and if they continue to accumulate truancies beyond that warning letter, that's when the truancy citation would go out. I do believe that the truancy warning letter does prevent a lot of kids going to court. Just looking at my numbers this year, it looks like there's 63 students who received a truancy warning letter who didn't yet follow it up with a truancy citation. So I think a lot of times making the students aware of the potential consequences and making their parents aware of the problem does resolve it without having to appear in court for it. If a student is truant, depending on the situation, I have been known to go to the house to try to retrieve the student. The student doesn't necessarily get arrested at that point. They don't get hauled off and taken to jail for the truancy. But a lot of times I'll tell students, if I come to your house to get you and you come with me, that was your one free ride. If I have to come to your house again and you either fail to come with me or I have to make multiple visits to your house, then that's a guaranteed citation for truancy. Like I said earlier, if you don't pay your truancy ticket once you turn 17, that can turn into a warrant, meaning that you'd have to sit some time in jail to serve the fine amount that was initially issued. And a lot of times the judge is known to suspend a person's driver's license because they know that that's something that's really important to teens. The best way to avoid getting truancy is to be at school. Attend as expected. Don't exceed the 10 days that your parent is allowed to excuse you. If you are out for any medical reasons, even if you're not at that 10-day mark, I would encourage you to come in with a doctor's excuse, because those get coded differently and those don't count towards the 10 days of absence. So if it's a medical thing, make sure that you're getting a doctor's excuse. Once you're 18, you don't necessarily fall under the habitual truancy or the compulsory school attendance laws. So you would still maybe be subject to school consequences like detentions or in-school suspensions. But the law says once you're 18, you're not required to attend school anymore. And the way I view it is, once you're 18, it becomes more the natural consequences of absence, which would be failing grades, lack of credit accumulation, and then ultimately diploma if the problem continues. Colleges do look at your attendance rate. They do look at truancies. It's become pretty competitive to get into schools, and they want to make sure that they offer openings to students who they can count on to attend. When you're in high school, there's a lot more pressure to attend. There are administrators and parents who kind of hold you accountable to that attendance. When you get to college, that is not there anymore. So if you've had attendance problems when you've had supervision, chances are when that supervision is gone, the attendance problem is going to increase. So colleges really take a look at that, and they generally will not offer that opening to a student if they've got a history of attendance issues and truancies. There is really no way to get a truancy letter revoked, but what I would encourage is when somebody receives that letter, if you clean up the attendance and don't have any more problems, you know, it's nothing but a small blemish on your record, and that probably would not influence a college's consideration of you for their student body. So, you know, not that we expect perfect attendance, but if you have an issue with it, clean it up before it becomes a real problem.